start the recording. So for those of you who might be new here, my name is Trisha Teague. I am the founder of the TREP School, and my organization is under contract with Illinois Department of Commerce Economic Opportunity to provide training and technical assistance for cannabis license applicants. And so tonight's session is going to be conducted by Michael Thomas. He is retired Deputy Chief of Police with the U.S. Navy. In his career, he was in his final duty station, I guess that's what you call it, is that right?
Yes.
His final duty station, he was in charge of 4 naval installations, so 4 bases. And then post-retirement, he also was project manager over security at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., and also at the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. So when it comes to security and when it comes to making sure that your facility is secure, anyone who can secure an entire naval base, much less 4 of them, can definitely make sure that your facility is secure. And so I'm really excited about tonight's presentation because when we looked at what the requirements are and looked at the laws, you know, what he did in this presentation, and obviously you'll see as we go through, is look at what the state requires, but also what makes the most sense. And in some instances, what his recommendations will actually exceed what the state requires. And it really is some practical information to help you implement your security plan. So on that note, I am going to turn it over to Michael Thomas. I am going to turn my camera off, and I will also turn off my microphone so that I'm not a distraction. But I might chime in at any point, just because. And, you know, if something comes up that I feel like I might want to interject. And then also for those of you who are online, if you have a question as we go throughout, you can enter your question in the Q&A box. Don't do the chat box, do the Q&A box. One, because those get tracked and we can actually use them later. So put your question in the Q&A box and then we'll make sure that they get answered. Are you okay with questions, before I mute myself, are you okay with questions throughout, or would you rather wait till the end?
We can do with questions during. It makes it go by, and they can stop me at any time. The other thing, I do want to get my notes because I can't get them. I can't get them on my. I know you're gonna get mad at me. I'm so sorry.
This is what happens when you're friends with people. Okay. It was at the top of your screen. I don't know how to tell you to get that thing back up to switch to the other view.
Yeah, I was just trying to get because now I'm not switched.
Hit escape.
Okay.
Obviously, I know this is not a gun, so this is not your usual tool. Hit escape.
Right. I'm like, yeah, this is totally.
Hit escape and see if that works. To get the screen back the other way.
Let me get it out of this. There we go.
All right, so now go back to your slideshow view, or hit from beginning, whatever. There. Keep it like this, then you can see your notes.
Yeah, there we go.
We'll all just see your notes. Okay.
Yeah, you can all see my notes.
Yes.
I'm not caring about that.
All right, I am going to stop my video, mute myself now. So it's all yours.
All right, how you guys doing? My name is Michael Thomas. Again, Trisha told you everything. I've dealt with the military and military bases and the physical security aspects. You guys are actually going to be working with your, putting it together, everything for your buildings. If you have any questions, I'm going to give you stuff that are for you to think about outside of the box, as far as it comes to security and your transportation and your building and securing your building. So we can jump right in. If anybody has any questions or want to go any certain way, we can, but at any time, just feel free to let Tricia know, and we can stop and we can go from there. All right. Those are the emails and the contacts. I think everybody knows we're talking about transporters, craft growers, and fusions. The purpose is, again, to give you the tools that you can use and the regulations from the state of Illinois, which you all have. And I'm going to give you other building tips to help you secure your facilities. So first, we'll start with our hot topics: the building requirements, the entrance and signing and procedures, and your transportation. All right. As soon as you find your buildings and wherever you locate your buildings, they're going to be signage. Main thing that you want to definitely have to have on your building, and I know this is already in your state laws and everything. Yeah, persons have to be 21 years old, 21 years of age, not permitted on these premises. That has to be on the front and the back of your facility. I mean, mandatory. Make sure that that's on there. And these premises are under construction and video surveillance at all times. That's going to be at the front and the back of both of your buildings, wherever you're located. Those have to be in open areas so everyone can see it. That way you're always in constant, they know that they have to be 21 years old and not be able to come on the facility or have anyone else come on the facilities underage. We wanted to go into our lighting, our building requirements for lighting. Every side of your building should be lit, clearly lit. It should be clear lighting. Your trees, the vegetation and everything else that might be blocking, there might be bushes, heavy trees and limbs. You have to get those pruned and pushed back, because you don't want anything to be able to block the lighting from your buildings or distort the lighting. That way all your camera feeds will be able to be seen visibly. If you can, utilize as much street lighting that you can, and always be aware that of your cameras, the street cameras. That's also an asset to your facility. We can go now we go into our door locks for our buildings. I personally would do everything with a keyless and electronic entry. That goes for accountability. You can always, everyone will be logged in when they're coming in and out. You will never have to worry about giving out too many keys or keys being misappropriated by copying keys, because it should only be one person with keys, and that'll be your key custodian. If you have a facility like that, there's an actual key lock, you want to limit your keys as much as possible, because people will give the key out, loan the key out. You protect your assets. Always make sure that you buy or purchase a keyless entry or electronic entries. Your windows on your facilities, I would make sure that you have sensors on them, or if you have windows, they're fixed. They're not able to be opened. If it's a one level, you want to try to keep the limiting to your openings as least as possible. And if they are hinge locks or HAPS locks that you could put another lock onto, that only they can only be your window can only be open from the inside. Make sure that they get HAPS locks on them that would take away from a security breach of any kind that you might not have to worry about. Do we have any questions or anything right now? Because
I'm actually going to interject and ask a question, simply because the first time I saw this presentation, I didn't know what it meant. So I'm sure someone else is probably thinking this too. What is a HASP lock?
A HASP lock is it's not a military term. It's just it's a two-pronged that it's how do I explain it? I should have had a picture of it. Well, it's a opening that it's like a little hook opening, and you put the latch over it, and then you put the a lock on top of it. That's a HASP lock. HASP lock. Are you understanding what I'm saying? You're probably not. I can explain it better than I can. Should have had a picture of it.
It's okay. But it's a different type of lock. I think it's from the inside, correct?
From the inside. That's why I say the locks, you want it from the inside. You can get it from Home Depot. It just goes right on the actual lock in your base of your wall, and you're able to just close the hasp and put the lock on it, and then that's your only key. That's the key that you would have, and that would go with your key custodian, and that'll be for your windows.
So someone asked, is it like the shed, the lock on your shed in your backyard?
Yes. Yes. There you go. Exactly. But those are for windows that, like I said, that don't actually have a lock to them. Most now the windows, they come with locks, but the older buildings, they might not have it and it opens outwards and then it's just the halves down. You want to make sure that you put another secure lock on top of that. But other than that, you should make sure that you have sensors and on every one of the windows that they would go to alarm or give you an alarm to your window being open or broken. So you definitely want to have that. All right, we'll go into exteriors. Exteriors are from your street concerns. A lot of people don't pay it, would not even know or anything or care anything about this. Your manhole covers that are outside from the street or the sidewalk. Sometimes those manhole covers can go to lead down into your facility, the underground to your facility, and can probably be a breach to your building. You want to make sure that whatever your location is, you want to make sure that those are securely filled, that there's not an underground tunnel or passageway that goes into your building, because people can break into your building going through that way. And that probably wouldn't be a main concern to anybody else, but your facility, you want to make sure that they can't access it like that. For a house or anything else, it wouldn't be a problem because it's probably filled. But as far as businesses and other areas, there are ducts and underground tunnels or whatever that can go into your building and they can breach your building. Also with that is there are ventilation systems. Sometimes you don't have a regular AC unit, it'll be a ventilation system that's on the wall, and sometimes those can be, you can get access through your building through those. They'll have the tunnels or the ducts that you can go through. What I recommend is that if you have one of those on side of your building, that you have a fence around it, you get a fence put around it that you can lock, and then only you and your personnel can access it. And if somebody had to come and do work on it or fix your ventilation, you have to let them open it to access it. So it'll be no outside concerns of access to your building. The other thing is buildings, your building next to you. Sometimes you have a connecting or adjoining facility. It all depends on where you're located. Your doors or your barriers between, you got to make sure they're either closed off or they're sealed, or you add an extra lock, or you have to have another lock that goes into it that only you can access it from your side of the building. And I would actually get a wall put in between, because sometimes they have the doors that connect, or I would always be cognizant and put a wall in between, not to allow someone else to be able to access your facility. If I'm going too fast, let me know, because I used to a whole bunch of slides and I'll just keep going.
There's a question, so this is a good break for a question. Okay. How do you suggest getting access to MH to check? I don't know what MH is. Maybe you know.
Manhole?
Oh, manholes, yeah.
How do I suggest to get access to them? That would be your planning. Whoever has the plans for your building or to your property, they'll actually have, they should have the plans for that, to see how far down the manhole goes, if it's a water manhole, So I would say the building owner or facilities owner, facilities. So most of the people have facilities that work the grounds, or they would know, and you would be able to ask them if it's filled or if it's just a cover that goes straight down into the ground, into pipes, or if it's something that goes down and into your facility, into your building. They can actually give you that information.
And then I would say that if you own the building, like in some instances, some of you, if you've already applied for your license, you may have acquired either a lease to the building or acquired the property through purchase, and you might not have that, but your city might be able to help you
Yes.
get that information. So probably the planning department of the
Yeah, definitely planning department. Yep. Because most of the time when you go when you purchase your building or you're doing anything anyway, those are going to be part of your construction. They're going to talk to you about manhole covers. They might talk to you about manhole covers, but they'll talk to you about wells, because the other thing is too, not only a manhole cover, a well. They might have a covered well that might be outside and it's only covered on the surface, but you want to make sure that you find out on your whole landscape whether they have manholes or wells or anything that could be on that property that can lead into yours. It might be 20 feet outside of your gate, but you got to know if it's something that might lead to an underground under your facility, because you don't want anybody to be able to breach your facility coming from the outside and you never saw it.
Okay, so there's a response that says, I have access to the data via my job, but I know it's not public knowledge due to security reasons.
Right.
That might, so yes, I would say, Michael, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, it wouldn't be public knowledge because of security. However, if you have the proof that you're owner or you're the lessee, then you would be able to get access to to more information than what would be public. Okay, that's all. We don't have any other questions, so you can go ahead. You can proceed.
Okay. Exterior. We can go to keys. We talked about making sure that everything was electronic. The other thing is key access to your building if you had to have it, or anything else, your safes, your locks, any rooms that you have that have to be secured. I would also have try to get electronic doors also, so it always has to be some way to maintain a key footprint to say who's been in or who accessed. I would have that, but of course all of them come with a key access also. So I would make sure that every key that you have, there's a key custodian, which you would be over your keys, and every key is accounted for and logged. I would try to get them that you can only make it off of a master. You don't want to be able to make duplicate keys, or you gave it to somebody else and now they can make extra copies of it. Wouldn't do that. Everything should be accounted for with your key custodian, and if you had to make it, it would be something that I logged. It would be logged, and where I went to go get it made, how many I had made. I would keep thorough records of that, because any key that gets out and duplicated, then you have a whole problem. So then now you're consistently changing locks, and somebody leaves, somebody does that, you don't want to do that. So limit the number of keys, and to keep them in a key lockbox. And that way you assign whoever your key custodian is. That way there's not anybody that can just go into the lockbox. It's the key custodian, and it's being logged and accounted for. All of your buildings just have an IDS, intruder detection alarm, that should be monitored 24 hours. I don't think anyone should just have a local one. I think it should all be monitored through whoever, and you have two people that are assigned. So If emergency comes out, it's a two contact person. They'll contact the owner of the building, and then whoever you have as your appointed personnel that responds to any alarms that go off or whatever time that somebody would be able to be monitored, be able to report to the building with the police, that they can let them in without having to be anything being destroyed or broken. They can meet the officer there and they can open up the doors and everything else. So make sure that you have an intruder detection system, and it's monitored by whoever you designate.
So we have another question,
Okay.
which is, how expensive is electronic access only? Just a ballpark figure, if you know it.
I haven't dealt with them in civilian world, but everything government is overpriced. Yeah, they overprice it, and they say it's a discount, but I can't really tell you the ball price of them, because they're going to range into, you can get, I guess there's a basic level, and then you have, some that have fingerprint. I mean, so I couldn't tell you which kind that you would get. I wouldn't go all out and get military grade detection systems. I mean, just something that can be monitored, something that can be locked, something that's recording the access to your facility. I mean, anything that just is going to give you control and access, that you can verify who's coming in and out, and there's an accountability. That's what I would go with. You don't have to get real vested in getting high tech, because as long as everything is accounted for and you get everybody the access cards and they only buy the access, you're good to go.
Yeah, I know. I remember pricing them once before, but I don't remember the actual cost.
Yeah.
Okay, so someone asked, this is a follow-up, I guess, is what is your definition of high tech?
High tech, they have some that are just key codes. There's have some that are fob key. They have some that are fingerprinted. I mean, you can, it all depends on you and your person, or how techy you are and your facility. I mean, I wouldn't put it on there, because we have some that, I would say if you had, if you were a grower and you had a lot of stuff inside that it's constantly there, it's not a pickup, takeaway, or whatever else, I would have a little more security, because it's something that's maintained there a lot, and you might not have it on all doors, but you might have it on doors that are, inside. You might have Tricia, correct me if I'm wrong, if like we have skiffs in our buildings. We have a regular building and everybody can get into, but then you have a controlled item area or a room where you could put that on your door, and that'll be a little more high tech. It might be fingerprinted, that it's only allowing so much access to somebody to get in, not just the key. But then again, you can always limit, or you can have as much access as you want to everybody can get in, or you can still get it limited to certain doors where certain people are allowed to come in. So that could be the price of your systems too, because the basic ones are going to be everyone that works there has an access. You get another system where you have separate entities that you're going into, and you have certain accesses to. So those systems are going to cost a little more.
Okay, a couple more questions. What is a low-end electronic / digital security?
A low end?
Uh-huh. Do you want more clarification on the question?
Yeah.
Nick, can you type in more clarification, please? Then another question was, which is, how many cameras do you suggest on the exterior or and on the standalone building?
At least 3.
So you have
Front door, back door, and whatever layer area that you have the most access to. If it's a parking lot that's on the side and everybody's coming through there, you want it in that area. If it's to a fence or an area that's not accessed, or I wouldn't too much. I'm not saying I'm not worried about it, but you can have your camera facing whatever way because you're not getting in it. Whatever your high access areas are, you want to definitely have a camera in there, and that's why we were talking about cameras, street cameras, and adjacent building cameras. Not saying adjacent buildings because they're worried about their buildings, but street cameras for the street. If it's pointing in the direction of your building, that's always an asset. So that way you can be able to move cameras in a different location, a different angle, because you already have one that's coming, and you're going to get a full spectrum from the street camera also. But anything that's visible, like especially your parking area, your dumping areas, or your waste, or getting rid of anything that has anything to do with that, you want a camera on those sides.
Okay. Those are all our open questions at the moment. I know that Nick is probably typing more detail on the previous question. So if you want to proceed, we can proceed, and then I'll bring that question up when it comes back up.
Okay. Okay, we were talking about parking also. Parking should be identified for your personnel and your staff picking up. I think they should be separate. Your visitors parking, or your designated areas, like, not saying visitors parking, your employees parking and visitors parking, that's access to people that are coming to see your personnel. I think they should be in a separate area from your customers. Your customers should park in an area where it's visible, and a camera should be also pointed to that parking area. And I think you should have everything like in a designated area for pickup, and employees and parking. It should be 2 separate parking. That way you'll know who's picking up. You can identify who's picking up, who's there to visit, who's there to do any type of business. So that way, know things, because everything in your building is accounted for. When you guys, your materials and everything that you have is high concentrated. It's almost like going into an explosive bunker. Everything has to be accounted for, and there's no cars in a pickup area. Everything, even employees, I would have them park on a certain side of your building, and it's marked off, and you make sure that everything is like separate. And I don't know how the facilities are going to be. That's why we're going to do
I'm sorry.
building inspections. Go ahead, Tricia, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I realized my mic was still on and I was trying to kill a bug. Go ahead.
What else was I saying?
Oh, you said we were doing inspections. What we're doing is in our assessments, the way that I have the assessment set up, at least the way I have it budgeted, is that you will come to Illinois to actually do some assessments. So for people who have already received their licenses and have their facility, because for anyone who has applied for their license already, you have identified your facility. And so what would happen then is when Michael comes to Illinois, we can actually come to your facility for him to look at different things and talk about where to put different things. So it's one thing to say, I got this security plan that I've written down on paper, that, the plan that I sent to the state, and I want you to look at it. yeah, that's good on paper, but it's a whole nother animal for him to actually come to your physical facility and say, okay, I will put this camera here, because he's looking at that spot, you know, what else is on the view of that street, if there are other cameras on the street, the manholes, all of these types of things, and he'll be able to, you know, ask questions or talk about things you might want to find out while he's there. And there's certain things that he's not going to be able to assess without seeing them.
Right.
So that is the plan, for him to make a couple of trips from DC to Illinois to actually do some assessments in person. You can go ahead. I'm done. There's no other questions either. Not right now.
Okay. Along with that, we already know every vehicle has to be registered. You want to make sure that everybody has credentials when they're coming inside. On bases like we're in, because of everything that's going on now, we're in conditions Charlie. That means it's like you're next to your highest level of security. That means I wouldn't let anyone in that doesn't have an appointment, that doesn't have an access or a meaning to be at your facility, to let them in. Now you can dictate that on the area that you're in. You can also set up parking placards with your personnel that are coming in and out, especially picking up, if they're picking up a lot of quantity of whatever it is, you give them a parking placard so everybody's identified when they're going in. And it's just an added layer of security for your facility, especially if you're gated inside. If they're parked on the street or something like that, you can't control that. But if you have anything that you're going to be in a building and then there's going to be access onto your facility that's gated or whatever else, you want to make sure that you may have some kind of placard or sign-in procedures. Well, definitely sign-in procedures. There should be a logbook, a record of everybody that's coming in and out. You should keep a record book, and I'm gonna get into that records keeping. But just levels. And talking about somebody that's coming into your facilities, you could check the car out when they're coming in to make sure that there's nothing that they're bringing in. But like I said, these are just extra measures that you might have in case of things that are going on in your area. And security is always the biggest piece, because people come in and, you know, you get people that protest, because I'm in the area of people protesting. They might not like what you're doing and they bring stuff onto the facilities. So you can check the facility, you can check the car out. You can say, if you're picking up, I have to look in your trunk or see, whatever the case may be, or vans, especially if it's something privately owned. Just little hints and stuff to try to help with security. Those are the things that I would look for. And again, I'm outside of the box because I deal with a lot of different aspects of security.
Okay, so we have two questions. So follow up to the question earlier, which was, can you recommend a quality electronic access system that would not be expensive like the higher end equipment?
I can find those things out. Trisha, I will, you know, because they have your email access, or they can get in touch with you. I can find out, I could definitely find that out for them. That would be no problem.
Okay, so Nick, send us an email. Like, I know you have our email address because we've emailed before. Send us an email at cannabis@the-trep-school, and then that way we'll get, I don't want it to get lost. So then that way we'll get an answer, and then we can send it, we can forward it to Michael, get an answer, and send the answer back. And then, you know, we might share it with other people even after this presentation when I send out my, you know, mass emails. So then that way, anything that might be recommended in terms of systems or anything like that, we can put that in a bigger email. So And then another question is, and I'm typing because there's a log of the questions in Zoom, so I like to have the answers in the log. So the next question is, should employee visitors be allowed? In pharmacies, if you're not licensed, you cannot be in the pharmacy. So can you answer that?
If an employee is allowed in the building, they're not allowed into the pharmacy?
Well, she's using the pharmacy as an example because she's a pharmacist. I happen to know
Okay,
her.
yeah, most definitely. That's what I was talking about with the access, and that's why we were talking about the different accesses in the building. I work on the base, and there's some buildings I can't get into, even though I have access to the base. Like if I'm going into a different part of a building, or I'm going in, my access is not going to work. So that's what I'm saying. In your building, in the building that's asking the question, your system is going to be different than somebody else's, because you actually have rooms that nobody should be in but certain people. So your access, you're going to have a different access level, and when you're doing that, certain cards are not going to be allowed. It's going to give you an error. You're not going to be able to access that part of the building. So those are the difference, and I understand what the question was about the different prices, because there will be, because you're going to have to get a system, and it's going to have all your employees and their access, and it might be myself and 2 other people that have access inside of here. So your access levels are going to be different. So those systems are going to be a little more pricey, but they're necessary.
And Katasha, and because it just says, should employee visitors be allowed? So if that's not, if we misunderstood the question, please let us know.
Well, that's twofold. Because okay, employees, because it goes both ways. Employee visitors, it should be a visitors area that they can go into. Not saying visitors area, your facility. You know, you can access the facility, and visitors can access it, because you got if you want to have a visitors access or a main access, or however you want to do that, that's fine. But I would always keep in mind the access level of, if you have a visitor, that's when we're talking about the security levels. They have a badge, because everybody has a badge. I think everybody has to get a license and has some kind of badge. But access to your building should be limited, because it all depends on the contents of what's in your building. So, you know, if there is going to be a visitor and you have meetings or whatever else, you vetted those people. You already know who they are, what they're there for. So it's already some kind of form of documentation that says this person is going to be here on this date or whatever else. And you already know, and they'll have access to wherever you're supposed to be, and that would be it. That's all I would give them. But far as we're talking about 2 different things, because like if everybody that works there or comes in and out on a regular and they're authorized to be there, there's still some rooms that some people don't need to be in, or don't need to have that access to, because only the growers or whoever else, or the people that are cultivating or doing whatever, are inside this room, and this is the facility, because you don't want too many people going in and access in and out, or those are going to be levels of security that you want to put on those, the access for those too.
Okay. Those are all the open questions that we have right now. So.
Okay. All right.
Oh wait, there's another question just popped in.
Okay.
What if I wanted to give paid tours to the grow room floor?
That's fine. That's like,
well,
go ahead.
I would say part of that answer might be based on whatever is or isn't in the regulations. Right. So yeah, Nick, you just followed up. Is it legal first? Right. So the legal piece is going to be dependent upon what the the laws and the regulations of the state of Illinois say.
Right, right,
So that's first things first.
right.
You want to clear that with them. Neither of us is an expert on the regulations. I don't know. I have a inkling that might not be possible, but it's been a while since I read the regs. Couple months, obviously, since the applications were due. So I can go through and look at the regs, and yes, I can look at the regs and find out, but also understand this: laws and regulations are living documents.
Right.
So even though it might not be stated today in terms of what you can do with visitors, that doesn't mean that it might not change at some point. So it's a catch-22. So you just really have to be careful as it relates to that. But I'll look and see what's in the regs as of right now and see what it says concerning visitors. I don't think it says anything right now, but I know it does. What the regs do talk about is that any person that's in your facility must have identification at all times.
There you go.
And I do know that even as it relates to your employees, that your employees can't even enter the facility without their badges. Like
Right.
If somebody leaves their badge at home and they're like, oh, I came all the way to work, but I left my badge, they cannot come in. They have to go back and get their badge. So with that being said, that would lead me to believe that the state probably would not like that, but do the regulations expressly prohibit it? I don't, off the top of my head, I don't think so, because I just don't remember reading anything that alluded to that. I'll go back and look again. But I do think it would be a touchy subject. And I do think that if the state doesn't prohibit it and you were to start doing it, if they don't like it, they probably would write it into the regulations. But I will look into that. What is considered a real visitor's pass?
A visitor's pass or a visitor's ID?
Nick, when you send that email about your other questions, send a question about this too, so that it doesn't get lost. Because I know now we've got 2 things open for you, and one of them is going to go to Michael, and the other one is going to stay with me. His response to you, Michael, is either.
What was that?
You said ID or a pass. He said either.
Okay. Yeah, IDs are passes. That goes with, like I said, that I have to find, we have to get more into the state laws and everything, because you don't want to deviate from any laws. It's just like me going onto the base. You have an ID, you have an actual ID, and it grants your permissions and everything else on it. You know, the cards and the way you can swipe. Those are going to be your state IDs. It's going to be something similar, just like having a military CAT card or a civilian CAT card. You can't do anything at work because you can't even get into your computer. You can't get into any doors. You can't get into any access of any part of anything without your badge. Now, see, the thing with you being given a badge, and I guess with the system, they'll identify your badge with wherever your location is, and that gives your access and everything else. And that's why I said we'll get back to you on the prices of your systems, because these are things that would go into granting access to your buildings and everything for your systems. But each facility would have, like, I guess, a different type of badging. Like you say, you have people that are coming into your facility to you want to show them your operation, your growth, whatever it is that you're trying to show them. You're gonna, of course, vet those people that are coming in to make sure that they need to have access, or they're on your access list, and that they're cleared, and they're not in any violations of Illinois state law or do anything to get you in trouble. So that's what the vetting process that you would have to do. And I'm sure if you're having a date that you're having to do it, you can have them send all your information in prior to, like 7 days prior to, or however you're doing it. That way everybody can be vetted and you can actually issue a card for the day or whatever, however that might be, for your visitors cards.
So, okay. I pulled up the regulations and searched for the word visitor. And I'm going through right now, but the recurring theme is that visitors must have prior approval from the department.
There we go.
Department of Agriculture.
There we go.
Prior to being allowed into your facility. So if you want to do the paid tours, you'd have to go through the Department of Agriculture and get a list of all of those people. It's the same thing as when I would say same, but probably very similar to the process that someone would have to go through when they visit the White House. For example, I went on a White House tour. I had to go through my congressman first, get my name on the list, provide IDs, provide a bunch of detail, then get approval back and then a date and time for me to then go. So it will probably be that same sort of process that instead of going through a congressman like I did for the White House, I had to go through, you'd have to go through the Department of Agriculture.
Right.
And yeah, all of these instances basically are saying the same thing. You have to go to the Department of Agriculture first and get their approval before the person can even come on site.
And that's where I know at any security building that I've ever had to work at, even giving tours, like I said, I worked at the Library of Congress. I worked at the Kennedy Center, all those places. Everybody, you just went through whoever their access in person. Most of them have a visitor center. And like I said, Department of Agriculture will have a vetting center, and they'll, you just giving them your name, whatever information that they're going to have you do, it vets you. It'll have all your information that they run your background or whatever it is that they need to get on the facility. And that'll give you access or grant you access, because they'll say you can access, or you can't, or you'll have to get this. They'll give you whatever information that you need to be able to get on. If you need more information, or you just won't be able to get on, access the facility. But we do it every day on the base. There's certain people that come on for different things, and they have to submit to a background check or whatever, and it goes through. And but you're saying it like that. If you already got dates and times where you're trying to do a tour, all you're doing is getting those names or whatever else, sending it to them. They'll vet the people. You don't have to do all that. They'll vet them, they'll give them access, and then they'll give you the authorization, and then you're going on.
Right. And then the next question is there current technology to track employees' movement inside the facility?
Only door to door. Like if you're leaving out, if I'm in one part of a building, I leave out of my area and then I sign into another one, because that's why I said you want every door to be able to have, instead of having a key, you want them to have a card accessibility, because that puts you from one place. It'll tell the time where time that you went into the building. It's not going to give you a time that you went out, but anytime you're accessing a door or anything else, it's leaving a footprint of when you're in there, when you access that time, the time you accessed it, and stuff like that. It really doesn't give you a timeout unless you left for the day, or not saying left for the day. It just gives you most of them is a sign in. It's a signage of going into the door or whatever else. Now, and we're going to go into later the actual logs that the last person would log out, and that's when it accounts for everybody being in and out of the building when you're opening it up and when you're closing it. And it's just like your vaults and your secured areas. You want to have those type of signages on there, and I'm going to go into that here in a minute. Trisha, are we good to keep
Yeah,
going?
we're good. We're good.
Okay. All right, still going to the building requirements. Like if you're building, I don't know, some of your buildings might have skylights to them or whatever else. You just got to make sure that your skylights are secured. It doesn't have a hatch to it or anything that opens. It would be like a clear, whatever lighting, whatever the lighting might have to be in the room or however it may be. You just got to make sure that those things are secured and they can't be accessed from the outside. Fixed ladders for your buildings. I wouldn't recommend any ladders be affixed to your buildings. If it's certain levels, most of the fire departments, of course, they got ladders or whatever else. I wouldn't give anything access, especially if you have skylights, to have a ladder affixed to your building. I would try to have that removed. Elevators, the control, like I said, it all depends on your facility or where you're working at. You make sure that they're controlled and monitored also. The other thing with them too are underground. It all depends on how the building is. Some of their equipment, the maintenance or whatever else, some of it's underground. So when they have to do fixing, so you got to make sure that goes with the manhole covering too. But that's all in your facilities. They're going to tell you all that so you'll know. So that's the other part of where your cameras will go also, because you're asking about cameras. Those are the big things. Those are the things that the average person doesn't sit there and think about. Like if you have a elevator in your building, where do they access it? Is it an underground access? Because some of the maintenance and stuff that are done, or it goes deeper and it might lead out to somewhere. So you just want to make sure that you know all that in your facilities and all the areas that might be breached, they're covered. And you at least you know about them. The same thing is with the ventilation, is the HVAC systems, the same thing, the ventilations and all that. You just want to make sure whatever your accesses are to your building, whether it's high ventilation, fans that are fixed to your buildings, you want to make sure that they're blocked off, they're gated off, and you have access to it. No one else has access to that. So if somebody has to come fix it or whatever else, it's something that can be logged in. You know who the person that is coming to fix it. You know, you're not giving anyone a key or anything else, because a lot of times we've seen it, and it's been back in a long time ago because we're way past it. They'll give maintenance people keys, and they'll have keys, and it's not on your key ring because you gave it to them because they're constantly coming in doing maintenance or fixing or doing whatever. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't recommend it. It would stay with a key custodian, and that would be locked off if there's something that's outside and it's adjacent to your facility, and you can get access in through there. Because even the smallest air ducts or whatever else, people will try to get access to them, and it might breach the security of your building. All right, security personnel. I would say, I don't know, most of you are starting your businesses and everything, but hiring security staff or whatever else, it's kind of, I don't know if people have dual jobs or dual hat it at your job, but there has to be a security staff or some kind of accountability staff for logins and pickup drop-offs, making sure everybody has their credentials, making sure everybody's in their drop-off pickup zones. And I think you should have record books, your key, your log books and everything are paramount that you have to have logging in. So it should be a person designated as your security specialist, your security detail or whatever else that you have that controls all access control points and know how to monitor cameras and everything like that. You should have a person, definitely a personnel on staff for that. And like I said, this will be the starting of your facilities, but always have that and always have someone like myself also, to come and continuously do quarterly checks of your books and your security, everything about your security.
Your procedures.
Go ahead, Trish.
I said your procedures. I was hoping.
Yeah, your procedures and regulations. Make sure they're all being followed, because a lot of things start to get laxed, and I don't care on what level of security that you're on. A lot of people get real lax with the security aspects, and that's where most people get in trouble. Credentials, not logging in, not knowing who the point of contact is, just anything. And most of the time, most of the things are always dealing with some sort of part of the security, and things didn't get followed. All right, now these are books that if anybody knows or did anything with the military, it's a military logbook. It's a records book. They're used in every facility. I don't care what building it is. I don't care what type of building you have. I'm in DC, and everyone in the buildings have these record books. Now you can line them and you put in whatever information that you need, but it should be pertinent information: who, what, when, where, why, and it should be documented all the way down. It should be a constant record. It should be the same thing put in every time: the person's name, who they're coming to see, what they're doing there. If they're picking up, they're putting in what they're picking up, who they're picking it up from. It's just a constant record of that you have for everything. And we know everywhere has a ledger or a logbook, but I recommend that you have a logbook like this in every facility or wherever you're going into. You should have a records log. That's just a picture of it on the inside. You can line it how you want to. Each column, make columns of it. You know, we do old school, the rulers, and you just write it, time, date, name, whatever it is, and you just do that you can go all the way across, and that's one day, the whole 2 pages, however you want to do it. But it should be dated and logged, and I think everybody should have that.
So there's a question that go ahead, you can go ahead, because your next slide probably answers it. The question was, will you cover security measures for transporters like type of vehicle, alarm system, tinted windows? So
yep, we were just going to that.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so the transporter information was after the building information.
Yep. So we're ready?
Go ahead.
Okay, like vehicles, all vehicles, vans, however you had it, it should be a GPS system inside, and all with the state of Illinois. That's just like we're talking about your IDS, or it should be registered, or it should be logged in with a company. Your GPS should be, that are on your vehicles, should also be monitored with a company also. So that way it goes from the point of pickup to the point of dropping off, or wherever they're going, it should be GPS monitored. Now those are gonna, like I said, they're gonna be different ones, but like I said, these are the ones that need to be monitored by a system and is tracked. So that way, from the time that you left the facility, it start monitoring all the way until you drop off that facility, drop it off. And type of equipment, type of vehicles, I don't know what the state of Illinois has to say, which vehicle you have to have, but I just know inside you got to make sure, follow regulations to have your PPEs, your personal protective equipment, like an extinguisher, gloves. They can even get it so strenuous to say, like, if your vehicle, it all depends on where you are, and you're in the state of Illinois, yeah, it could be broken down into tire tread. Like your actual vehicles, they have to be monitored and checked. Like your drivers have to do the coin check, like to put in to see how much tread is on the tires. So it avoids the accident, the slides and all that other stuff that go on, the water slides. So it's a whole bunch that you can go into, but it'll be your vehicle will have a regulation, or you can set regulations to, what kind of vehicle you're going to have. Make sure the tire tread is on, to make sure that they have extinguishers in it. Also, each vehicle has to have a records log in it, to and from where they're coming, all your required documents inside. Also follow maintain a two-person shipping and receiving receiving like who's shipping, who's signing for, because too many hands in it always is a problem. More hands in it is always a problem. So you want to make sure you got the designated person of who you're picking up, who you're dropping off to, and the logs and everything that go inside there. And that vehicle must be the vehicle that log the vehicle that's supposed to be picking up and where it's going. So you want to make sure everything is monitored, logged in, and tracked. Any questions right now?
We do have a question, and I track and monitor it using the Track iPhone app.
And I'm sure that is something that can be done too. They're making so many advances of everything that you can have, and that's up to you and your systems and how you have driving and everything else. Some people will actually get GPS systems put in their car. Some will have the actual logged in, and because you can log in with companies, and you just pay a monthly fee, because a lot of the security personnel now, when they have to do rounds, they actually have panels on their buildings now, and there's an app that you can just go to, and you log into your app. It's who you are, and you'll get your login, and you'll start from where you're leaving, and you just start your app. You click on whatever it is that you click on, and it monitors you, and you're tracking from where you're to and from. So, there's so much that they can do now, but I don't know if it's a regulation that you have to have a GPS in your car, or it's the app that you can actually have.
I believe I'm in the regulations right now. Hold on, let me look up GPS. Yes. There is a you have to have a description of the device that you plan to use to provide GPS monitoring of equipment transporting cannabis. All vehicles transporting cannabis must be equipped with a GPS-based tracking device. The device shall be capable of allowing the transporter to track the vehicles at all times.
Yep.
And this is the most important one. The GPS tracking system shall also be able to store historic data for no less than 12 months and permit the department to search all real-time and archive data upon request.
So there lies the question, and that's why I put this on here, and that's where it came from, because I read the regulations before, and like Trisha said, things might change because it's new or whatever else, but you have to go by what's in the regulations right now. Regulation says GPS monitoring. So
right.
I know where I come out of, military, they're GPS monitored. A lot of people, they might have the apps. There might be an extra bonus with it for tracking with you. You say you're the owner and you want to just see, and you're not at the actual monitoring system or whatever else, but there still has to be a monitoring system that is regulated. So that's why I said the GPS must have a system, and it must be monitored. And the thing is, that's what it says. State legislates that it's monitored, and that way it's recorded, and they can always go back and check the monitoring and everything else. So in those apps, I don't think it might be a little historic to say you went from here to there. It's almost like Uber Eats or something like that. You can go into your history and it'll show something, or your Uber drives or whatever it might be. But with this one, I guess it gives a little more detail to funnel, because materials and stuff that you're carrying, that it is something that's regulated, and there goes into your documentation, because they might say that they shipped off this amount and it went in this car on this time and this, and it might be documented something totally different. So they're making sure that they have dual access or dual accountability for things. And that's another way to do it too with the GPS.
Right.
It all goes with the documentation in your records log. So you're protecting yourself, you're protecting your assets, and you're making sure your product gets from A to B and it's accounted for.
Okay.
And like I said, everything always don't deviate from. And like I said, I talk from a military standpoint, and I talk from a law enforcement background. Always, 2-person signage. If you're looking on there when I said records login, make sure you have accountability for everything, because that's how things get lost, misconstrued, and anything else. Because one person puts something, I always said, and I stand by it, 2 eyes are always better than one. I always have a double check or double checking. If I could, if I have a transporter, I would have 2 people transporting with me at all times. That might not be a state regulation. I'm just giving you best practices. I always go with the 2-person with anything, especially if you're driving a truck. If you high quantities or whatever else, you always got a spotter, somebody that's always watching, or even when you're at a loading dock, you're signing in, you're staying with the product or whatever else. It's like a 2-person, and then I know it's not always going to be feasible, but if you can have your personnel when you're transporting, it might be the best policy to have 2 persons, or if you can. But make sure you always have 2-persons signature. When you're leaving, whoever's loading up or doing whatever, and the driver's name, whoever is going, make sure all that's always documented in your logbooks. You can
Okay,
never do two.
Go ahead, finish your sentence.
I was going to say, you can never be too safe or too cautious with anything, especially, us doing business like this, because a lot of them, there are regulations. Like I said, we're not doing military, but I'm trying to get you in the mindset of covering yourself, always to cover yourself.
So there's a question, this is a really good one. Is there technology for electronic signature tracking instead of paper tracking?
I don't care if there's electronic tracking of any kind, that's fine. I would tell you, even being top levels of anywhere that you're dealing with, there's always a logbook. There's always a logbook. I don't care where you're at.
So I'm going to ask a follow-up. So and let's say, and I don't know, I know you worked at the Pentagon. I don't know, you had to do this at the Pentagon, but at the Pentagon, if there's stuff being delivered, I'm assuming then that there is both a physical copy, paper copy, and then there's also maybe some sort of electronic log too?
Yes. Because they're like you said, you're going to have a badge. You're going to have to swipe in and do whatever else that monitors you there, but you are always going to be logged into a logbook. And that's, if you walked into the Pentagon right now, and I have a badge and everything else, the person that have a badge, they're already being accounted for. They're going into like you said, the employees entrance. So anybody that's coming in that's a visitor or anything else, there's a whole process, and it's logging you in. They're putting you in the computer system and everything else. That's there, and that's going to be the login. But that's the Pentagon. So if you're going into, like I said, I work at the government printing office. When you're going into their building or whatever else, there's a log. There's an actual log of you going in, whether you're a visitor, whether you're going to the bank, because there's so many facets of a lot of the buildings that there's people coming in for all different types of things. But you're going to be logged in. There's going to be a login that gives you a login. There's one at each checkpoint or wherever it is that you're coming into a building. There's going to be a log, and anywhere that has any sense of security or anything else, there's going to be a logbook, a record book. And if it's not a logbook, you have log sheets, and that's just something made up, and it's going the same thing like the logbook. Because if you don't buy those logbooks, You're going to be making duplicates of your login sheets. It's the same thing. Your name, who it is, who they're coming to see, who everything. So if you're saying that you don't want to keep paper logs, I would never do that. I keep them. We keep them all. We keep them all. And whoever you hire as your security person, when they do checks or whatever else, they should have a log. It'll be a daily log.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Finish.
It'll be a daily log of what they do, what they've checked, what rounds they made, or whatever else, or how many vehicles came in today, how many people were at the loading dock. Your loading dock might have. You're going to have one for your loading dock. You'll have one for your main access, and those are just ones before you get to footprints of inside the building and going to facilities.
And someone just commented who used to work at a VA that not only did they have paper logs, those paper logs were also scanned on a regular basis as well.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. And I'm telling you, I don't know where you will work and you're not going to have logs. I mean, any real facility, you're going to have logs. You need to have logs, and you keep those.
In the civilian world, we don't necessarily do that, and where we work.
You don't. Right. Yeah, you don't. You really don't. But I'm saying for something of this magnitude, where it's a lot of cash, a lot of money, a lot of product that is that has to be accounted for. Your product has to be accounted. Every part of your product has to be, even your disposed product, everything, me reading everything that's going on in here, everything has to be accounted for. So if everything has to be accounted for, you want to align yourself in every part of security. That way you're covering yourself at all times. You being because we're talking to our audience right now is the people that it's their business, right?
Yep.
So you want to make sure that everything is accounted for, where you're not standing there and having to be, checking and doing all this, because you can just go at any time that you want to and go out, or one of your supervisors or your security person to go and check the logs or check whatever it is to be done, and you can see it. You can, as well as you can see it physically right there and check it, or like you say, QC, quality control. You can every month or whatever else, you go through the logs and you can check and make sure, because somebody didn't fill it out or something and you can get them to check it, or there was no entry made at this time. Everything to be accounted for.
And on top of that, and I don't know those of you who are here, if any of you attended our compliance session. We were doing those back in February and March, and I think we even did maybe one into April after they extended the deadline. But in our compliance session, it goes through the fines that are associated with findings. And there's extensive fines associated with record keeping or lack thereof. So it probably would behoove everyone to do too much,
right,
and too little, so that you have everything covered in a multitude of ways to ensure that you don't end up with a fine, because those fines can be thousands of dollars. I think some of them were like $5,000 or $10,000 per incident.
Yep.
So if you have, a bad employee who wasn't doing what they were supposed to do for an entire day as it relates to logs or whatever, each one of those missing entries could be considered an incident by the department. And then you're racking up
fines.
Tons of fines, into the hundreds of thousands of dollars range, simply because you didn't do really good record keeping. So we have a question along the vein of this conversation, which is, how do you suggest to proceed if you have a smaller staff?
As always, I've always been there. Look, I've always been there. You're dual-headed. Somebody's gonna take up, but the biggest part is, you have operations and then you have security operations. So that person is going to be a valuable part of your business, because I understand your business is growing and Fusion getting everything done with that. But your other part is your security and your accountability. So your security and accountability are the one things that will get you shut down, losing money, losing productivity, and then the actual, if you're not paying attention to your building and everything else is going in, now you have security breaches. You have, because I'm gonna tell you, there are going to be people that are just as well as I'm sitting here telling you about security, there's someone trying to breach security. So they try to get in on every aspects of anything to get inside or try to take away, or, you know. So I would say small staff, somebody's going to have to be dual-hatted to say they're going to take on a security aspect to make sure that all your security needs are met too.
Yep. And I'll just say, from a operational and procedural perspective, it's not just making sure that it's not just dividing up the roles and responsibilities. Two things. Number one, if your name is listed on the ownership information that was submitted with the state, the buck stops at you. You're ultimately responsible for everything that happens in your facility. So you have to make sure that you're double checking everything that those people do. So even if you personally are not over security, the person who's over security should be checking in with you on a regular basis and sharing information with you on a regular basis of what's happening. Like, you know, even in my business, I'm not over fiscal, but I'm checking over fiscal all the time, because I know that in a situation where I'm in, where I'm dealing with state money and this is grant money, everything's got to be right. So even though they're checking their work, I'm checking their work too, because at the end of the day, I'm ultimately responsible. That's one piece. I think the second piece is really finding somebody over to do operations who is all about procedures, managing procedures, making sure that you actually have the details of the procedures identified and what should be handled and how it should be handled. Now, some of that may mean doing it yourself, and some of it may mean calling in a consultant or having someone look at all of your plans to make sure that you're doing everything the right way, which is one of the reasons why we included these assessments and why we're doing it post-licensing, because that's when it really makes the most sense. Like, who cares what you wrote down on a document that you sent to the state? I'm not saying that you don't care, because I know you do care, because the state is going to use that information to determine, you know, your license, but the actual doing of everything, doing the work day to day, is going to require somebody who's going to say, here's what your step-by-step procedures are going to be, and making sure that those are being followed. And if it's not working, then you change the process so that the new process will get followed. But at the end of the day, it's just identifying the steps and making sure that it happens.
And that's really, you're gonna name that person, is, you know, like anywhere else, it's probably your project manager. It's you, then your project manager, because they know both sides of everything that's going on, and they regulate your security stuff, and they're in contact with you all the time.
Okay, there are no additional questions, so you can go ahead.
All right. Now, I don't know, this is really wrinkled, but there's a 30-day security container checklist. Now, these can go on your door. This tears, it's a front and back side, and that's a whole 30-day listing. These are sheets that you can make up, and this is like your signing in. This is your whole building container. You could put one inside of, you could put one outside of your door on a skiff also, and this should be on a clipboard of when you're opening and closing your building, whoever's coming in and opening in it and whoever's closing in it, these should be outside your door on your clipboard to say, hey, my facility, I know it opens at 7 o'clock, but whoever came in, whatever time, this is it. It goes a 30-day, and it's accountability for everything. That's your whole building. So these are just little ideas to say, like checklists to say for your facility. Even though you know who works there, your sign in, your opening and closing, this should always be a container for your doors, your main doors that you're going into. When you're opening and locking the doors at the day, opening and locking doors at the day and night. And if you have a secure container that you have, that's what you want outside of that also. And if you have any safes or anything else, any documents that you can get, and some of these we can get ordered, or you can order them from different places, and all they are security container check sheets. These are ones that we use in the military or facility bases, why am I getting tongue-tied? Military facilities that they use, and inside your safes or whatever else, these are people that you contact. If somebody has to go inside, this is the container check sheet that's going to be inside, and this is only for the people that are authorized to be inside of there, and you'll keep these as a log.
So
it's just an added form. It's not something that's necessary.
Commentary on you being tongue-tied. Nick said, "Take a sip of water," and then he also said, "You're doing good."
Look, I did. I was like, I do. I need water. I need water. Yeah. Other than that, yeah, that's it on that. I'm like I said, I'm going way outside the box in some of these, just to make sure that you're covered and you're covering your facility, because anytime they come in, and the state of Illinois can come in and do inspections on you.
Absolutely.
And when they come in and do an inspection and they see you're following everything by the T or whatever else, they're going to come in on a quarterly. When you're suspect, you're going to get more visits. You're going to get more and more visits because your accountability is lacking. So when you have things and you can automatically reference them and show it and have it, you're always better off. You're always better off. So that's some of the things that I just recommend. Like I said, these are some of the recommendations, but actually when I come and do assessments, I have a whole checklist of stuff that I go through. Like I said, it's more strenuous than what we would do in the civilian world. And I'm just trying to give you the best practices outside of the box also.
So if you have any last minute questions that you have not asked yet, this is your opportunity to ask those. So for those of you, and I don't know who was here when we started, so I'm going to just repeat some things. So for those of you who might not have been here when we started and you're looking to possibly have an assessment or want Michael's information, you will contact us at the Trip School. And then if you want an assessment, the priorities for the assessment will be given to those who have actually been awarded licenses, and that's just because we have a limited budget. If it were up to me, anybody who would want, one-on-one time or have an assessment done, we would do that. But it's not up to me. Someone else made the decision about how the money gets spent. So we are limiting the assessments at this moment to licensees, or at least giving them higher priority first. If you're working on a license, so let's say you didn't apply in this last round, but you plan to apply, or you may find out a couple months from now that you didn't win your license and you plan to reapply. We can work some things out. If you want to hire Michael to look at your plan or help you put together your plan for a license, you can most certainly do that, and we can help facilitate that. It won't be covered under the grant, at least not right now, because like I said, we have a small number of hours, I think it's 20 total, earmarked for assessments for licensees. So but you can send us an email, any questions or whatnot, you know, if you have concerning your security, you can send us an email and we will definitely get those answered, get those passed on, and then get the answers back to you. If you want to end up on a list for an assessment, go ahead and contact us now. Like I said, we're doing prioritization for licensees, and nobody has a license yet. And as it relates to the licenses, because I did bring that up at the beginning, I do have an open question out to my program manager at DCEO to find out from the Department of Agriculture what their plan is for the licenses. As of earlier today, there was no executive order or anything saying that the licenses were going to be delayed. So if they're going to be delayed, and I still expect that they are, maybe that will be announced tomorrow, since when the dispensary licenses were delayed, it was announced like the day before they were due. And the dispensary licenses still haven't been issued. So my expectation is that these licenses will be delayed as well, since the dispensary licenses were already delayed, and those were supposed to have gone out by May 1st. Just a brief marketing announcement. We have a networking session tomorrow at 6. So we've got some stuff that we're planning to announce at the networking session also, for the purposes of helping you guys network with one another and create some business relationships. So there's that. And then we've got 2 more HR sessions, sessions 5 and 6 on July 11th and July 18th. Both of those are Saturdays. I think the 11th is at 10 a.m. and the 18th is at 11 a.m. And so those are on our website right now. You can register for those. You can register for the networking session on our website. You actually have to, because you have to have a password, and I don't know what the password is. So you want to go and register for that to get that information for the networking session tomorrow. I can't think of anything else to announce. There's lots of activity. As soon as I know information on the licenses, because that's what a lot of people care about right now, I will pass it on as soon as I get it. And I've been waiting for it. And I've been asking the question for at least 2 weeks, because I have things that I want to plan. Like Michael's supposed to come here to actually do some assessments for people. We want to actually plan that. So hopefully we'll have some answers soon. So I don't see any other questions. I think I've babbled long enough. I was trying to give people the opportunity to type in any questions that they have. Nick says no questions. Awesome job, Mike.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
So yeah, another comment in the chat that says thank you. So if you do have any questions that come up later, you know, that you think of something later, because security is a huge animal. Feel free to send us questions later and we will get those answered. That will not be a problem. Definitely, if you're preparing a license application, definitely familiarize yourself with the regulations as much as possible and do everything that the regulations say do at the minimum, but you have some best practices. Oh, this session will be available for rebroadcast. So probably in the next 24 hours, I'll send out the link with the rebroadcast information. So it should be available for you to watch, you know, on Zoom later, you know, share with your teammates or whatever you want to do with it. So thank you all for coming. Have a great rest of your evening. And hopefully I will actually see some of you. I guess I could turn my camera back on. Hopefully I will see some of you tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening for the networking session. Oh, wait, there's a question. Oh, talk with you tomorrow.
Oh.
Yes, so, all right, I am going to end the session now, so everybody have a good night.
Good night. Thank you, everybody, for coming out.
And thank you again, Michael, for this presentation.
No problem.